In this tutorial I will be showing you how to make my new paper hidden blade that can withdraw about twice as far as the previous hidden blades. So first of all you need some scissors, some tape, some double-sided tape, or you can still use the tape, rubber bands, lollipop sticks, ruler, and paper. Try to get the paper as thick as possible. You'll also need some fishing line or other thin strings. First of all, get a piece of paper, fold it in half along its longest side, and then in half again and again. This will form the blade. Using your ruler, mark about 15 centimeters down the blade. Cut it in two here. And don't discard the piece that you've just cut off. Now cut one end into an arrow shape. Now tape it together so that it doesn't fall apart. Now, at the other end of the blade, make two holes side by side. You can use a hole puncher or any other sharp thing just to put a hole inside it. Or the hole puncher would definitely be best. Now get an elastic band and cut it in half. And then cut about 2 feet of fishing wire. Thread the wire through one hole and then through the other and make a knot. Then do the exact same with the band. Try to make one end considerably more longer than the other end, as you'll see. Once it's done, it should look like this. You should be able to pull both the wire and the band without the knots coming undone. Now get another piece of paper and mark a line about 2 centimeters behind the length of the blade. Cut the paper along the line. This will form the inner casing. Fold one edge over about 1.5 centimeters high. Next, place the blades on the paper and draw a line to show how thick it is, and then fold it over at that point. Fold it over, however, a little bit after that point, so it still has room to move. Then, fold it over again so that it has another edge the same height as the first edge, as you can see here. At one side, mark a line about the same width as the height of the edge of the inner blade casing. and cut out the 2 squares, as you can see, so that it can fold to make a solid wall at the back. Like that. So that when you fold it over, it will be the same height as the edge. Now, fold it over and then punch 2 holes in it, so that when you open it up, there's now 4 holes. Using the discarded part of the blade, stick it onto the bottom of the blade casing, as you can see here. This will make the blade run a lot more smoothly, as it'll be kept away from the knots made at the 2 holes on the bottom of the case. Tape it up and try to leave one side with as little as tape on as possible. Use a double-sided tape to stick the rough sides of the discarded blade onto the bottom of the case. Line it up so that one end of the tube lines up exactly to the edge where there isn't the holes, and it should have, as you can see here, it should leave room so you can still see all 4 holes. Get another elastic band and cut it in 2. Thread it through one of the bottom holes and then back out through the other, and then tie it. Make sure that the knot is on the outside of the case and one side is considerably longer than the other. Now, get a piece of fishing line and do the exact same. Now, make sure that the fishing line is underneath the band. If you put on the fishing line after the band like I did, fold it underneath the band. Just thread it underneath and then pull it, so that when you pull both the band and the line, the knots do not become weaker. Now we're going to stick the elastic band from the blade onto the last 2 holes from the case. Thread it through the holes and then back through the other hole to make sure that the knot is on the inside of the case. Then you make a hole just there at the end of the outer blade case. Make sure at this point in time the blade is overhanging at the end of the casing. The whole tip of the blade should be overhanging. stick down the lines to make sure that they do not get tangled in any of the tape. Stick the edges of the blade casing to the back of the blade casing where the two holes are. This should make it more like a box shape. Now fold over the top and draw a line. Cut it so that the width of the top is the same as the width of the bottom. So when you fold it over, it's not too tight on the blade, yet the blade cannot fall out. Make sure at all times that the blade can definitely move freely when the string attached to the blade is pulled. You can either cut off that little bit overhanging at the ends, or just cut off its corners. I've just cut off its corners so that you can't see the knots when looking at the blade from above. Now get another piece of paper and mark once again about 2 centimeters behind. Fold over an edge exactly the same as we did last time, but this time about 2.5 centimeters high. This will form the outer casing. Just as before, fold over the paper to make an edge the same height as the other edge. But once again, fold over the line a little bit after the line made. No, sorry, fold over the paper a little bit after the line made so that it does have enough room to move. Once again, mark on the back, but this time the back only has to be about 1 centimeter in height. Although, if you want it to be as strong as possible, then try to make it 2. Puncture 2 holes in it side by side, but this time make sure that there's only 2 holes and don't fold it over before. Cut off the 2 squares as shown. Fold over the back. Now get another piece of paper, just a little bit under the size of the inner casing, and then fold it over again so that you can make, as you can see here, a small tube underneath. Try to make the inner casing flow out a little more smoothly. Make sure that there is a little bit of space at the back, but this time there does not have to be as much, because there's not 4 holes, there's only 2. Stick the tube into the outer casing. Make sure it lines up perfectly, so that it does not overhang or cover up the holes. Tie the bands at the ends of the inner casing to the back of the outer casing, so that the knot is on the inside. This time we'll not be tying a piece of fishing line. We'll just be using things that we've already got. Puncture 2 holes at the ends of the outer casing. Thread the hole through, so thread the wire through the hole at the top of the inner casing. As you can see, the blade here does not come out as much as I'd hoped. It should look like this when it's at its resting position. If not, then the blade will not be withdrawn as easily. So fold it through. So thread the wire through the hole, so that when you pull the wire, the blade moves in and out of the inner casing. You're going to tie this wire through the 2 holes at the front of the outer casing, but make sure that they're tied together very, very closely. And then when you pull out the outer casing, as you saw, the blade will move out as well. Now, when you pull the wire from the inner casing, so the blade and the inner casing should both move out, as you've just seen. If not, then you've done something wrong. At all times, stick down the wires so that they don't get tangled up or stuck down. Stick the edges to the back of the outer casing, so that once again it makes a box shape. This time, however, completely remove the top. As you can see, if you pull the wire, then the blade should move out. The inner casing should move out, and the blade should both move out. Cut 2 strips of paper. Stick these strips as shown so that the inner casing cannot fall out of the outer casing. When it's done, it should look something like this and work similar to this. Now get a fresh sheet of paper and fold it over and over again. Now cut a lollipop stick into multiple pieces and stick them along this sheet of paper. Do the same, but this time don't stick the lollipop sticks onto it. Now get some double-sided tape and stick it along each of the lollipop sticks and stick the 2 tubes together. Now cut out 4 long strips. These are going to form the strap that holds the blade onto your wrist. Stick them as is shown. The first 2 should be very close to the edge of the tubes. The next 2, however, should be quite far away from the other end of the tubes, as you'll see. This is because the length of the outer casing should be more shorter than the length of the strap that you've just made, as you can see. Stick it down with a bit of tape just to make sure that the straps do not fall loose. Every so often, make sure that the blade can definitely withdraw and retract, so that it does not get stuck somewhere along the process. Stick the blade onto the casing with double-sided tape. Make sure that the front of the blade, where the arrow-shaped edge is at the same side as mine is, and so it can definitely withdraw and retract when pulled. Cut off any excess length on the end of the strap and cover all legs of the strap in tape. Now on one side of the strap, stick a little bit of tape so it's overhanging. Now it should stick like that. Now keep on making adjustments by making the arms more shorter or more longer so that the blade fits a lot more better. when it can fit on perfectly, fix the blades onto your wrist and cut out a small rectangle of paper. Puncture 2 holes side by side in it. Thread the wire that should activate the blade from the inner casing through one hole and then out through the other. Don't tie it yet, however. Make sure that it's as close to the blade as possible while still being able to fit around your index finger. You may have to keep on making many adjustments so that it works as is shown. See here, I've not tied it yet because it's very difficult. Tying the wire onto the ring is really hard, and it feels as if it takes more longer to do than the actual blade. Once it's done, it should work something like this, including being pulled out when you stretch your index finger. You can also make a van brace and then stick it along the straps of the blade case.